I think validating your kids and what they're feeling is the number one way to make sure your kids have a life of feeling loved and appreciated. Because when you tell kids that if they tell you what they're feeling and you say, no, you're not feeling that, if you don't validate their feelings and validate what they're going through, then they're gonna have repression, and they're not gonna want to be open with you. Because if your kid tells you I don't feel good and you say no, you're okay, then they're not gonna want to share what they're feeling with you.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Deeper Than Dough podcast. And today we have Devin on the podcast, and we're going to talk a little bit about mental health struggles, ketamine, and starting a new business.
Yeah.
Real estate, right?
Yeah, real estate.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
And Bennett, this is your good buddy, that recent friendship.
Yes.
Dude, we talked.
We were flying high. We had the first concert at 40,000 feet in a private jet. Me and Devin, dude, just like, who the hell are these guys? We flew with, it was the Muscle, and I got to tell the story too because I'm an idiot. Never actually seen the Diesel Brothers shows.
That's okay.
So
we don't need to tell him that.
There's this funny looking guy that comes on this jet, and he's got long hair, a long beard. He's got shorts, and it's freezing outside, and boots all the way up to his knees. And I go, nice to meet you, man. What's your name? And he goes, Dave. I go, that's Diesel Dave. I should know who this guy is. Anyways, it was a good trip. So that's how Devin and I met. Yeah. And we went to New York. It was a New Jersey trip, but we went to New York because Devin and a few other people hadn't gone. So it was a 2-hour Uber ride because it was pouring rain.
Yep.
We get there. What do? We walked around, got pizza. Then we walked to the dessert shop. Then we went to Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And then we went back.
Yeah. We checked Times Square. We went to Taco Bell in Times Square. We got offered some Coke and some heroin. And we said,
dude, I didn't get
you didn't hear that?
that?
Oh, yeah, dude, you must have been standing behind me. I said yes, and I was like, oh, these guys won't do it. So never mind. I was joking. No, yeah, we got offered some blow. Somebody tried to rob me, but
dude, I didn't know that either, man.
Dude, no, this guy, he grabbed my butt, like to see if my wallet was in my back pocket. I don't carry a wallet.
I just got a text, by the way. Maybe I shouldn't say it on the podcast, but I will, from our last guest that said, who is that? He's fun to look at.
Well, I am married, but I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah, dude.
We all need a compliment that.
No, somebody was talking in the jet, right? And it was the guys that are doing the concert, I think. And he just pauses. And he looks at you. He's like, you got a nice smile.
Dude, I started braces in second grade. I wore a headgear for 2 years.
Oh, dang. You went through
my
the
teeth
ringer
were
then.
so bad. And then I got done with braces in 7th grade, and I've worn my retainer ever since. I'm like, my parents just dropped a bunch of money.
Yeah.
I'm like, but dude, I couldn't even get girls with this girl in high school. So I was that bad. So so it works for me now, though.
It's working. You paid the price.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's how we met. Give us your background, though.
So, yeah, man. So born and raised in Utah, like standard Mormon kid, like grew up in Farmington, Utah. Did my 2-year church mission in Florida. Love Florida. It's the most batshit crazy place ever. So I guess probably should tone it down on the language in case you have to bleep it or not.
No.
But
you should hear Mike's language, dude.
So, but yeah, got home and met my wife the day after I got home from my mission. And was playing baseball, was on the baseball team there. I was a walk-on. She was on the softball team and fell in love and got engaged 4 months after that.
Awesome.
And then got married. Yeah, so 9 months from when I got home, was married. So I've been married, this June will be 11 years. So I'm 30. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. 32 years, got a 6-year-old, at 32 years old, got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old kid. And living the dream. I've been doing real estate. I work for a big real estate investment company here in Utah. I was this acquisition manager, bought probably over 500 houses between here and Texas. Because I opened up an office in Texas when I was about a year in after I was there, and then I had an opportunity to be a general manager for another real estate company here in Utah. Utah Sell Now, so Mark Stuber and Cody Hoffine, they're pretty well known in the real estate community around here, and so they actually franchised their business model. So doing wholesaling, so getting contracts on properties, selling contracts to other investors. Like I know Bennett's in the real estate game, so if Bennett's looking to pick up a a rental or a flip or something like that.
No, that's just for social media. I own a handful of properties. I own a handful, but it's
yeah. So and then so they franchised their business, and I'm like, after 2 years so I was their general manager. Moved to so ran the business remote. So I was a general manager running it remote, going back and forth between Salt Lake and Dallas, and then after 8 months, like, we probably should move down there to try to get this thing ramped up for them. So we moved down there, and then 2 weeks later, after we moved down there, COVID hit. The whole world shut down. We moved from our beautiful 3,700 square foot house to a 1,000 square foot apartment. Don't know anybody. At the time, got a 3-year-old and a 5-month-old, and we learned, like, the gym became our best friend, and learned how malleable a marriage is too. Like, just going through, like, just trying to figure out how we can be happy in that setting. And so we lived there. We came back in spring of 2021, and I realized, like, I don't want to just work for somebody. Like, I feel like at that point, I'd done hundreds of transactions in real estate. I understood the business. I'm like, I want to be a business owner, and I want to do real estate. And I always had a goal to do real estate in Florida, or to do some sort of business, because Florida's out of this world cool. Like, there's so much diversity down there. There's so many opportunity. And
is it cool, or is it batshit crazy?
It's both. That's what makes it cool. It's because it's batshit crazy.
There's a show called The Good Place. Have you heard of that on Netflix?
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it though.
And it's anyways, the good place is heaven, bad place is hell. Yeah. And one of the questions is, if you're from Florida, you're automatically in the bad place. Dude. It was on the episode I watched last night.
The freaking coolest people. But, like, there's a Facebook page where you can look up your birthday and it'll tell you what crazy thing happened. Like,
oh no, I've done that.
Yeah.
I just did that because I was in Florida like 2 or 3 weeks ago doing Disney World.
That's right.
And I told my wife, I was like, type in your name and your birthday. Sorry, you don't type in your name, Mike. Grab your phone.
What am I looking up?
Do your birthday.
Do I have to go on Facebook?
No, just go on Google. Do Florida man, your birthday.
Yeah, that's right. Florida man, your
birthday. And we did it with all our kids too. Dude, just cracking up, dude. Florida is crazy.
Well, people don't know. Like, they did the math. Like, the average missionary talks about 17,000 people in 2 years. So imagine living in Florida, talking to that many people. Like, I watched it.
Florida man killed wife, stepdaughter in 1992.
Yes, that's yours. Exactly. That's you, man.
Dude.
Florida man killed wife and stepdaughter. Okay, that's you, dude.
Okay,
you're a psychopath.
Okay. So, like, you remember hearing that story about that guy that ate those people's faces off, right? You ever hear about that in Florida?
I think I don't know.
Did I point it out to you? Yeah,
maybe.
But it's pretty, it's a worldwide, there was a nationwide news story, and freaking, this happened 20 minutes from where I was living at. And, like, one of the families I'm close with, she works for the police department, and she was on that case. Like, and they found no drugs in his system, allegedly. And he just went crazy, just this 20-year-old kid. Yeah, they thought he was on, like, bath salts or something, but he wasn't. Like, when I was there, we went and visited a guy. He decided he got a 20-bottle Percocet and decides to drink it with an alcoholic energy drink. And his wife was a member. He wasn't, so we were just doing stop buys or whatever. So I'm
like, on your mission.
Yeah, bro, this is
innocent
on my mission.
At this point.
He pisses all over himself, takes his pants off. He's freaking naked from waist down, trying to put his wife's pants on. And I'm like, telling my companion, I'm like, bro, we got to call an ambulance. This guy's going to die.
Yeah.
And he was going to, because he literally popped, like, I think he was like 10 or 15 Percocet. And he got those tall boy energy drinks with like 8% alcohol or whatever in them. Like, saw people just having sex in their car on the way to the gym. Like, dude, just the most wild shit. But
all right, let's go full circle. Now, where do you own your real estate business at?
So, yeah. Sorry, I could talk about Florida forever.
Florida, you chose Florida.
Yeah, no.
We know why now.
Well, yeah, but so I chose Florida because, one, obviously I wanted to still have a connection to Florida, still be able to go there, and the market was really great down there because during COVID, a lot of the people from New York, New Jersey, like, they all kept going down there. It's increasing real estate values, and it's wild because I picked Palm Beach County to work, and then the 2 counties north of there, and what's crazy is that there's houses for sale for $100 million, but you can drive 5 miles inland and buy a house for $200,000. So there's a lot of opportunity there. I did a lot of research to see there, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this business, and I'm going to do it virtually. So I had to hire an acquisition manager that can be my boots on the ground, go to appointments, get contracts, and I'm like, I'm going to start cold calling. We're going to start doing direct mail. PPC, so pay-per-click, so Google Ads and Facebook, and just.
And you were working for this company. They franchised, and then you bought a franchise.
Yeah, so I wanted to still. So these guys are still mentors to me this day. Some of the best people you'd ever meet. Like they're people anybody would want to be friends with, do business with. And so they gave me two options. Hey, Devin, start your own business or be a franchisee. And so I chose to buy a franchise them. So yeah, so I'm fascinated with franchises. That's why it was cool for us to connect and learn more about Dirty Dough. And so I'm very grateful I chose that. Chose the franchise route. It's been a great experience. It's been up and down, but definitely more up than down with business, and been buying and selling properties for the last 2 years down there. So, and doing it all virtual. Like last year, we did just over 700,000 in revenue, and so we closed on 26 contracts at over 700,000 in revenue, and I only went down there 7 times.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So
that's awesome.
But,
that is.
Yeah, and so I just live 15 minutes north of Salt Lake City, and fly down there. I just got back actually yesterday. So so it's fun. I try to get down there as much as I can. So
how was that transition for you, going from working for the company to then buying your own business and doing the franchise, as it relates to joy and fulfillment in your life and your marriage? Well,
I realized that, man, this life is so short, for one thing, and like I feel like my parents had an option to start their own business when they were my age and they were 30, and they chose not to, and they regretted it ever since for not taking that chance. And I thought, like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, I could start this business, it could blow up in my face, but at least I tried. Like, and for me, like, honestly, like, we're getting vulnerable. Like, it was always important for me to be not just liked, but be respected. And I feel like people that take chances and bet on themselves, whether it works out or not, the respect you get and the opportunity that it gives to you, like if I didn't take a chance in this business, I'm not sitting in this room right now. Yeah. I'm not making the connections that I'm making. I'm not taking the chances that I'm getting. I'm like we spent almost 10 grand just to go on that trip to New York. Like that's not a cheap plane ticket by any means. That's one of the most expensive purchases besides my house and my cars that I've ever made. But I knew the networking and just the opportunity from that was gonna 10x. So yeah.
You mentioned awesome. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Tim Ferriss wrote a book called The 4-Hour Work Week, which is awesome. And he goes through that. And anyways, I've pitched that 1,000 times to salespeople, like when I was recruiting salespeople, because that was my mentality as well. And it was so helpful. Whatever reason, our brain, it's like, here's the worst that can happen, but we think it's down here until you actually play it out in your mind. You're like, oh, actually, I wouldn't die. If I bought this business and it failed, I would be okay. Yeah. Or if I went and moved to take this other business opportunity or work for this other person or whatever, it's so crazy that our mind actually thinks it's worse than the worst that can happen. So you actually play it out and you're like, okay, well, the worst that can happen is I buy the franchise, I don't succeed, I go into some debt, then I go back to what I was doing before and it takes me 3 years to pay off the debt or whatever it is. And you're like, oh, I can do that. And then when you actually see the worst that can happen, then you're like, it's not that bad.
There's a guy here in Utah who owns and is entitled over 6,000 units for new multifamily developing.
Wow.
And he lost a $52 million portfolio back in the 2008 crash. Lost his marriage. His wife left him. He was being investigated by the SEC for 5 years, came out clean. He didn't do anything illegal, but he lost his $52 million portfolio. Wow. And then 7 years after that, 8 years, he just gets into multifamily developing, and now he's worth well over $100 million from it. So yeah, it just shows you like, and I'm reading the book Obstacles Away right now by Ryan Holiday, and it's just like every story from every success, there was major obstacles or big life-changing experiences to the negative, but it turned into where they are today. Yeah. So it's cool to read those examples and see like, man, I'm investing $100,000 into a real estate business where you guys are investing in a company that's going to be worth well over $1 billion in not the near future. And you just don't know what's going to happen.
You don't, but you just have to do it.
Absolutely.
Just dive in, and to ease the mind of diving in, really saying, what is the worst that would happen? Absolutely. How much money would I lose? How much debt would I go into? And then how would I crawl myself out of that? Absolutely. And how long would that take? And you can see, like, it's not that bad, which is crazy. We just feel like fear and anxiety and everything sinks in. And you're like, wait. Let's think through it. Let's plan it out. Let's get clear on it. And then you're like, okay, I can do it. I can take the rest.
Dude, I've got fear and anxiety right in this moment right now. I've got about almost 300 grand just floating out there in the air right now, just to close on and deals to come in. Like but it's like I look at the fear, I look at the fear and anxiety I had by not just kind of scaping by. Like I was doing good, you know, I had 6-figure job, making decent money, like have a great wife and kids. But I'm like, I think the biggest thing I learned, like having a chance to meet with Ed Milet, is like the enemy to great is good. And there's a lot of people that I know that are doing good and they're not happy, and they can live that life for the next 50 years or however long they live, and they're never going to take a chance, and they're going to.
Why don't you think they're happy?
I feel like I just honestly read from Marcus Aurelius. Like he talks about like people that that aren't pushed to growth and to being better. Like they don't see satisfaction in life. They don't, like we're creatures of habit. We're meant to grow. We're meant to get better. But I feel like for me, like what I'm trying to reroute the subconsciousness of my life is that, because I learned from Dr. Craig Manning, the sports psychologist for the Milwaukee Bucks, he's like, you live 90% of your life within the subconsciousness of your mind. Only 10% of your life is reality. And I'm like, man, so you're just fighting inner demons essentially of doubt and fear based on what you experienced in your life in your youth and watching what your parents did. Because my parents had nothing but doubt and fear. Yep. And now I'm having to just try to rip all that out of me. And like, I feel it every day. I woke up this morning, severe anxiety. I'm like, I got this, and this deal that I'm trying to work on and get it closed. But I'm like, the only option I have is to just take action and hope to God it works out, you know?
Yeah. So you wake up, because I have those mornings all the time, and you're just like, oh shit, I got so much stuff to do. How am I going to accomplish it all? That anxiety starts sinking in. Is there anything that you do other than just getting to work to kind of help you reset and be like, okay, I need,
Yep. Well, now the weather's nice. The first thing I did, I usually get up and I meditate. That's like the first thing I do. But this morning, I'm like, the weather, it's nicer outside. I put on a jacket and I took my dog on a walk. I'm like, I gotta get out there and walk for about 15, 20 minutes. And that made it so much better. And I get back and I meditate, and I schedule out my day, and I try to just think about all the things I'm grateful for. Like honestly, like gratitude, highest vibration you can be in. And if you're grateful, it's really hard for shit to go sideways.
Yep.
I don't see, like, as bad as things could get, if you're grateful, it typically works out.
So walk us through a gratitude exercise that you do. I mean, if there's anything, it doesn't have to be anything specific, just how do you recall and remind yourself to be grateful, and what's that process like?
Well, the Muscle, he's one of my mentors. I do coaching with him right now, and I just like, when I had some stuff that went sideways a couple weeks ago, he's like, Devin, 2 years ago, could imagine being in the place you're in right now, like being grateful that you have these deals you're working on. Because 2 years ago, like, you're doing deals for other people. You're trying to make a couple $1,000s in a commission check, as opposed to, I can make $100,000 in one deal, and I've done it. Like and that's what's crazy. It's like I can make more money in one real estate transaction than people make in years. Yeah. Like that's what's crazy. So I'm grateful for these challenges, because it's like, it's forcing me to see opportunity, and it's forcing me to problem solve, to see like, how can I make this bad situation into something better? And my brain just works so much better. Like I come up with more ideas. Like I get more creative, and I feel like that's the biggest problem, is that our brains are wired to get creative and to get better. Like I learned this from Craig Manning. People think their memory gets worse as they get older. It's actually supposed to get better. Like your memory is supposed to get better as you get older, but people just stop. Like they don't read books. Like they don't challenge themselves. They don't take care of themselves physically and mentally. And like, that's why I believe like freaking 90% of people hate their jobs and hate what they do.
I believe that.
Oh,
you talked about the fulfillment, and I think that's kind of or the progression. And I'm gonna say that's fulfillment for me. Like that's seeing your progress. Yeah. I think that is a double-sided sword, and we do need to see progress in order to reach those higher levels of happiness. Yeah. But at the same time, you don't want to rely on that, because if you always go after the next shiny object of the next amount of dollar amount, or the next sales, or if I only get this many real estate transactions, buy the next house, that's also, I would argue, not the way to go.
No, absolutely.
So it's kind of finding the balance of, well, I want progression, and no matter what progression I'm at, I need to be grateful for that progression and sit in that gratitude to have the fulfillment now, rather than, well, it's the next thing that's going to give me the fulfillment. The next thing is going to be the happiness. So anyways, it's a balancing act.
Well, we talked about that a lot, because like I actually wanted to, I'm like, Dirty Dough, the concept is awesome to me. Like, this podcast isn't about Dirty Dough, but like, I was looking into buying a franchise, and I got on the phone with Ryan Bacher, and I'm like, and he was telling me everything about Dirty Dough. I'm like, okay, Ryan, well, answer me this. Like, so if you were me and you're trying to build your business and you're trying to get into a place of revenue, like, would it make sense for me to try to do something else along with that? And he gave me great advice. He's like, Devin, if you're trying to build your current business, you're still working in your business as opposed to on your business. He's like, it's not a good option for you. So like, I was like, man, I'll buy a Dirty Dough. I'll open an Amazon store. I have my real estate business. And like, I knew things would go to shit if I chose to do that.
Yeah, you got to hyper focus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's like, oh, if I have a little piece of income over here, I think it's the Warren Buffett of, don't put all your eggs in one basket and guard it like hell. Yeah. You know, like, and what you're an expert at, instead of just trying to, a little bit of crypto over here, a little Amazon over here, a little franchise over here. You know, it's just like hyper focus on what you're doing.
See, and that's what my wife actually helped me with that. Like, we sat down and I'm like, because I was at the time 2 years ago before I opened up my business, I'm like, well, I'm investing in crypto. I was looking at stock trading, being an acquisition manager and buying properties for my bosses, and I'm like, what am I doing? And I said to my wife, she's like, you got to focus on what you're good at. And like, what I'm really good at and what I hyper focus on is my relationships. Like, look, I invited myself to come to this podcast because like, I like Bennett. Like, I like what he's doing. Like, and look, I'm just like, I want to develop relationships with people, because in my business, it's all about relationships. Yeah. I'm dealing with people that are in financial distress, that are dealing with inheriting a property after death of a loved one. They destroyed a property because they were a landlord and they didn't have the money to make repairs, or they're getting foreclosed on. I'm dealing with people that are in bad situations, and my ability to connect with these people and develop relationships with them is everything to them. So yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get super hyper focused on and just be incredibly good at. So I want to talk to more people. I want to network, and I want to see how can I provide value for more people. And yeah, once my business is getting better and in a place where I can just step away from it, then those other opportunities will be available to me. So,
and mad respect for reaching out for the podcast. I mean, that's how I get, usually it's just like, hey dude, I saw you had a podcast, if you're looking for a guest. And I don't know what your text said, but as soon as you sent it to me, I just connected you with our producer Dalton. I said, let's get him on.
I said it to you as we got off that private jet, and then I text you. I'm like, hey bro, it was a pleasure meeting you. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do the podcast. So I'm like, that's the other thing too. Like, I'm throwing my freaking shot out there and see what happens. Yeah.
You have to just throw it out there, because I feel like we connected a ton because we were together so long. But at the same time, you're in Farmington, I'm here. Yeah. It's not that far of a drive, but it's still an hour. The chances that we would have reconnected are very slim unless you said, dude, let's freaking get on the podcast.
Absolutely. Well, and here's the other thing too. Like, I understand, I've really understood the importance, the value of people's time. Like, look, you're obviously in a place where you're 30 years old and you're running one of the fastest growing franchises in the entire country. Like, that's, to have an opportunity just to network with you. Like I said, it goes back to, it was worth that freaking 10 grand that we paid to go on that airplane. Like, for me, like, and then sitting down with Ryan Bacher, he wants to be an investor for me. Like, and then I've been, one of the best connections I've made. I've been meeting with, I've been talking with this guy at my gym for over a year. And come to find out, he runs one of the biggest private equity firms in Utah. That's like a $2 billion fund. And then he wants to learn more about what I do. And I get a meeting set up and we're sitting down with him. And I'm like, this guy's making freaking like $5-10 million a month doing what he's doing. Like, it's wild. So, but that's the thing. Like, I make fun of myself. I got made fun of all the time growing up because I won't stop talking. I won't stop asking questions. And honestly, that's the reason I'm at where I'm at.
100%. You just got to freaking put yourself out there.
Absolutely.
So before we were talking a little bit about ketamine, which I've done 6 or, no, I've done it. I did a 6 session and then I've done 2 booster shots.
Okay. Yep.
Yours were painful experiences.
My wife died in her additional, they did she's 5'1", 130 pounds. They did 120 milligrams. I
don't know the measurements.
Yeah, but she did the shot, and
it was the shot.
She's like, I died. Like,
but I remember, I think I did 130.
Oh wow!
When we went with Parth.
Oh yeah.
In the shot. Yeah. But I'm 240 pounds.
Yeah. My wife's 110 pounds.
And it
lighter.
is. This is one of the psychedelics that is 100%, not 100%, but it is based on your weight.
Yeah.
So like what I understood was it's up to 1 milliliter per gram, per kilogram. So I'm like, 106. And even then they went, or maybe 1.5, but it's like what they gave your wife was.
Dude.
Anyway, so why did she decide to do it, and what is your view on it? And because it's mental health, so I'm kind of shifting gears here. But
full disclosure, so like, look, I'm still very active in the LDS church and love the church, but like I'm very, very interested. I have always been interested. I have friends that did psychedelics in high school. I've never done any sort of drugs in my entire life. Because for me, like going back to I talk a lot. Like I told my parents everything. So I feel like from a trauma standpoint, I've had a much better life experience than most people because I didn't hold anything in. Mm-hmm. So my wife,
and you mentioned starting therapy at a young age.
Yeah, I've seen different therapists since I was 13 years old, and so I've always felt really open to communicate with people and say this is exactly what I'm feeling.
That's cool.
Why did you start seeing a therapist at 13?
So my parents were actually going through some marital troubles, and so we all went as a family. And I've always had kind of I don't know. I've been always connected and knew kind of when stuff wasn't right. Like before my parents sat me and my brother down that stuff wasn't going well with them, I already knew. Like I already could tell. Uh-huh. So I've always felt anxiety and like felt a lot of guilt. Like just especially when I turned 13, like I always felt guilty. Like I wasn't being the best kid. But I'd never done anything like I said, never done drugs. I freaking waited till I was married to have sex with my wife. And it wasn't even church related. Like I didn't feel guilt from like church stuff, but I just felt like I just was never leveling up to, like I always felt like I was a bad kid if I watched a music video or just some of the most ridiculous stuff. Or if I looked at a girl and noticed she was attractive or whatever, like, so it's stuff like that. So like, I just would talk through those things. I couldn't keep it in. And I have family members, they kept everything in. And then it reared its ugly head as they got into their 20s and 30s and dealing with divorce or not good relationships with their parents. And like, cause like mental health, like my great grandma, she went through freaking electroshock therapy back in the 60s. So like mental health is.
What is electroshock therapy?
They tried that on people with like severe depression, like back in the 50s and 60s.
They did with like schizophrenia patients.
Yeah. So she was basically like, she was numb. She basically felt no emotion. Mm-hmm. And because like she dealt with abuse as a kid and everything. And so they would try these different therapies to see like, how do we shock the system?
Where was she?
She up in Idaho.
Idaho.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. So yeah. So my parents were always very good at listening to me. Like my parents' marriage was terrible, but they were actually great parents. My dad was not a great husband, but he was a great father. And I always could tell him anything and no judgment. So yeah. So going back to, my wife kind of had the opposite experience. Like her parents are great people, but they're a byproduct of their environment they grew up in. My wife's grandma was 15 when she got pregnant with my mother-in-law. So she wasn't a great communicator. And but my wife had gone through some mental health issues and going through trauma. And so she had listened to other people that have gone through ketamine therapy. And so we found this clinic, and actually our cranial sacral therapist, which other people know as energy work, it's pretty common here in Utah, told Lauren like, hey, I've done everything I could do to help you. Like you need to go do ketamine. Yeah. So that was kind of her. And so we were kind of all about it. And going back to it, like, I've always been super interested in psychedelics. I see the value of it. Obviously, people abuse it just like anything else, but I know psychedelics has helped so many people, whether it's mushrooms or MDMA or ketamine, like ayahuasca. So I've always been all for those things to try to find alternative solutions to just freaking prescription drugs.
And how's it working for your wife?
It's been great. Like she's had some really powerful experiences, but I think the hardest thing that anybody realizes that it reveals things to you, but it doesn't fix anything. Yeah. It reveals like, hey, you are worthy. Like God loves you. Like deity, however you want to describe your background on faith and religion and things like that. But it's like, okay, like everything that I've gone through that was shitty is honestly what's made me to be the person that I am today. And how do I like she's so good at communicating with our daughter to make sure she doesn't go through the challenges that she went through as a kid. And that's
awesome.
Yeah. So it's really cool. My daughter's like me. She tells us everything. Like,
Are you going to have your kids start therapy at a young age?
It's interesting. So both of our kids have seen this craniosacral therapist. And so full disclosure, our youngest son, he's adopted. So like we've taken him, and he's had like, we believe that from a genetic standpoint and energy standpoint that he's held on to things that his birth mom went through just by being pregnant with him. Like, I believe that not only genetics, but trauma that she experienced can be passed down to your kids. And
I think they've done like a lot of studies on that, especially with the kid in the womb.
Yeah, absolutely. So
like that's passed down.
And if we're getting really vulnerable, so this person that we see, Andrea Carver's her name. We believe she has a gift, like a gift of healing, and we believe that she was able to see that Bo had gone through some pretty severe trauma being in his mother's womb, and that his mother was being abused by his birth father. Mm-hmm. And so, because she asked him, like, who are you mad at? So how do you feel? He's like, I'm mad. This is a 3-year-old, by the way. He's 3 years old. He said, I'm mad. Who are you mad at? He's like, I'm mad at Dad. But he wasn't talking about me. Uh-huh. And you can just tell that he had gone through some pretty traumatic experiences, like just being in his mother's womb. And so I feel like just talking with your kids, like, I don't know if going to a professional therapist is necessarily the right answer for everybody, because I think traditional therapy is very weird in a lot of ways, and it's very old school. And that's why I believe in like energy work, ketamine therapy, because like you can talk to a therapist while doing ketamine as well.
Yeah, I guess it should have. My question was really, what are you doing with your kids compared to how you were raised? And it sounds like you started down the path of how important mental health is very early with a traditional therapist. And now you're saying, I for sure want to give that to my kids. I don't know in the same method, but the same education of how important mental health is, the subconscious mind, trauma, healing, becoming a better person.
I think validating your kids and what they're feeling is the number one way to make sure your kids have a life of feeling loved and appreciated. Because when you tell kids that if they tell you what they're feeling and you say, no, you're not feeling that, if you don't validate their feelings and validate what they're going through, then they're gonna have repression, and they're not gonna want to be open with you. Because if your kid tells you I don't feel good and you say no, you're okay, then they're not gonna want to share what they're feeling with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, what is that doing to their subconscious mind or their conscious mind? It's like, wait, but I know how I feel. Dad's telling me I should be feeling this. Mm-hmm. Is there something wrong with me? Why am I not feeling what Dad's or mom or brother, whoever's telling me that I'm supposed to feel like? I do feel like that messes you up.
Well, and I've learned too, I think looking at my parents' generation, my wife's parents' generation, because we're around the same age, I feel like their parents were told, just deal with it.
Yep. And
I think we've kind of swung the pendulum really far the other way. It's like, well, you've got to get medicine, you got to get medication. Like, oh, you think like I don't want to get into transgender issues, but like they say that 1 in 5 Gen Zers are transgender or non-binary. So I think the pendulum's kind of gone the other way, where it's like nobody knows what the hell's going on.
I don't think anybody knows how to actually talk about it.
No, we don't. Like, because you'll get therapists that'll just validate exactly what they're saying. Well, I feel this way. And it's like, instead it's like, yeah, you're right. No, it's like, no, let's talk more through this, like to see what's really going on. So, but like looking at my parents, like they were just say, hey, just deal with it. And so my parents are dealing with that now in their 60s, and they're trying to freaking unwind 60 years of trauma and things that happen when you're a child, like when you're a young child, like my daughter's age, our kid's age. Like, could you imagine trying to revisit the same shit that happened from freaking almost over half a century before?
And then realizing you had to live with it the entire time.
The entire time. And like, and in spite of that, my parents did pretty well. Like my dad has his own issues. Where my mom, like she's not just dealing with trauma from her marriage, but she's revealing stuff that her dad said to her when she was a kid,
which is all just repressed. Like it happened, and then you feel the emotion, and then your brain has a choice. right?
Yeah.
It's like, are you going to feel that and allow it to be there with you? Or are you just going to say that's bad?
Yep.
Let's ignore it. And then I'm just making all this up, but my view is when you do that, whether it's an anxiety or a fear, then you do the same thing with positive emotions and you just become more numb, which I felt like I did. And then I started telling myself I didn't have empathy. It's like, no, it's there. I just have to feel empathy and to feel more joy. I also have to allow myself to feel more anxiety or more sadness or more fears. And it was actually Chase on the plane. So I started following him, Chase Hoskin, Keaton's brother, the Muscles brother. And man, I need to go look it up. But he said something about to really progress and go from where you are to the next level, it's a matter of how much emotions you allow yourself to feel. And he just said emotions. He didn't say positive or negative. And for me, I'm like, okay, cool. I think that's true. Like that resonated with me. And I'm like, okay, so if I'm feeling an emotion, I have to just be like, okay, this is good. No matter what emotion I'm feeling, emotions are good. Allow them to be there. Sit with them. Breathe into them. And know that you're getting better because you're giving your body permission to feel that.
Absolutely.
Do you know it takes 90 seconds to feel an emotion all the way through?
Really?
Oh, really?
Sit through it, yeah. So if you want to breathe through it, just know it takes 90 seconds.
Yeah, my wife went and did the Muscles wife. She runs a.
Was that just last night?
Yeah.
My wife was there too,
No
so they
way.
probably met.
She
Yeah,
probably
we
met
brought
my
cookies,
wife.
dude.
Oh,
Dirty
no.
catered that.
What the
Let's
hell,
go.
bro? Yeah, my wife was there. That's awesome. Oh, that's tight. Yeah, she said it was amazing. Like I've done breath work. I know you hung out with Mitch Matthews the other night. He's actually one of my mission companions. I've known
Oh, really?
that guy.
Oh, yeah, he went to Florida.
Yeah,
dude.
I've known that guy since freaking 2010.
Yeah, we were in the sauna, man. You got to come over.
Oh, dude, I'm in. I love the sauna.
Did you see that, dude? We got our
250 degrees.
Got my sauna to 250.
How long?
I put a cold rag over like the sensor. I need to just install it lower. And then I was like, oh, it takes 20, 30 minutes to heat up. But we went inside, we're talking other stuff, and then we come out. We get in there, and it's like,
dude.
So we sat in there for a good 5 minutes, and it was just too much. So we opened the door. We stayed in there.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, well, we need some humidity in here because it burnt all the freaking. But you put water on the rocks and it's even hotter.
It's like 185 is what you want to be in.
We got it down to 210 and then we sat in that for a good 30 minutes and then hopped in the ice bath.
Oh man,
good old Mitch, dude.
Oh, dude.
At our ice bath, too, we were from 250 degrees in the sauna. And I left it plugged in for a little too long because it's just a freezer.
Yeah. Oh.
So I was dumping out huge chunks of ice like this big, 4 of them.
Yeah.
So the water temperature was legitimately at 33 degrees.
From 210 to oh my word,
250.
dude.
Let it get down, down to 210, and then jumped into 33
How did you
degrees.
sleep that night?
Dude, it's euphoric.
Oh no, it is.
For someone who doesn't do drugs, that's what drugs are like.
Well,
get in the ice bath at 33 degrees in about 30 seconds it hits me, and I closed my eyes and I was like, I'm high right now.
Dude, Wim
great.
Hof, doing Wim Hof's breathing motion. That's what I brought up Mitch because he went with Lewis Howes to Wim Hof's thing, and then I added the app, and you do 30 seconds of deep breath, and then you hold your breath for as long as you can. Yep. And I got up to 2 minutes, and you're buzzing. You're just.
I feel it in my lips when I do that, and my fingers.
It feels like you're taking pre-workout. That beta alanine that kicks in. It feels like that in your freaking whole body.
Have you done the Wim Hof and then done push-ups with your holding your breath?
No, I'll try it though.
Yeah, dude, I haven't done it in a while, but
Who told you to do that?
Wim Hof, dude.
Really?
So you do his breathing exercises, which is 30 seconds or whatever, 30 to 45 breaths of hyperventilating, and then you hold your breath. Anyways, I think after the second or third round, then you do it again. You hold your breath and do push-ups, and you could do more push-ups without breathing than you could with breathing, which is crazy.
I'll have to try that.
That's so wild.
You pump out 30 to 50 push-ups without taking a breath. See,
and honestly, for me, I think the biggest, going back to relationships, talking about what we're best at, I'm so curious. I want to know, and that's why I love Florida, because there's so many people from so many different backgrounds. Dude, we meet people from Muslims from Indonesia. We meet freaking druggies on the street talking to Israelite Nation. I think for me, I'm so curious about everything. And that curiosity leads me just to ask a million questions about people. And like I said, about drugs. Like I said, at baseball practice, this kid would tell me, dude, one of my buddies, he did shrooms and acid and all this stuff. I'm like, tell me about it. He would go, I want to hear specific details on what exactly you're going through. Yeah. I have a cousin, he did hardcore drugs and and we went on a 14-hour drive to go sell satellite in Texas. And I'm just tell me everything, bro. It's that stuff fascinates me. So going back to I think I think we're getting away from modern medicine in the sense that the actual benefits, like think of how many people are on Xanax. People are like, look, I did Celexa.
I watched a Netflix documentary on it.
Dude,
I didn't know what it was 2 months ago.
Bro, I know people that Xanax, from what I understand, and I've read this, I could be wrong, but you're only supposed to be on it for a short period of time. But people have been on Xanax for years. Like Jordan Peterson, somebody I admire, he was on Xanax for years and it almost killed him.
Yeah, and then when you try to detox off of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But
no, it did touch on that in that documentary.
So I think COVID revealed like I think we're going to see a huge, massive wave of significant mental health problems, specifically with young children. Like
we are, dude. We're here.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate. Like my kids, my kids didn't wear masks. They went to school. Like we traveled a lot during COVID, and like we lived in a city where they actually tried to Colleyville, Texas, tried to ban allowing people to wear masks. Like,
oh really?
Super Republican, like super rich people. I was
in San Diego at the time, complete opposite.
Oh, dude, yeah. So it's just like, so my kids don't know what it's like to wear masks. They don't know what it's like to not be in school.
Yeah,
they don't know what it's like to not travel. I flew more of my life at that point during COVID than I ever have my entire life.
Better not say that, dude. You're gonna get canceled.
Dude,
I'm just joking.
Yeah,
I'm just
cancel me, bro. Yeah.
Well, that's sick, man. Yeah. I didn't get to ask you all of our questions.
I know,
but we're also we've had a great chat.
I've got one more.
Yeah.
Though.
Okay, let's go to the final question.
What is well, I guess we got two more, but on the energy side,
yeah.
Now knowing this and how it's, I mean, kind of taboo. We've stepped into a different world as far as like understanding it. But what does it make possible for you? Like out of pure curiosity,
just energy in general.
Like, yeah, like Western medicine can't prove this, right? But some of the work that she did on your son and different things, like,
yeah,
you can't explain that stuff to a normal person. Like,
no.
So what has made possible for you, not only in like your life, but like also manifesting, getting into these different areas? Like what makes possible now that you've seen these types of things?
It's funny, Brent, because me and Bennett talked about it a lot, and like obviously different views, and like I appreciate Bennett's approach, but like I realized for me, I've manifested 3 things that are really important to me in my life. I manifested I would marry a blonde girl from California. I met my wife the day after I got home from my mission. Mm-hmm. I manifested that I would do business in Florida of some degree, and it happened. I manifested that me and my wife were going to adopt, and we did. And my wife, she said, the year we adopted our son, 5 months before we got him, we didn't even know we were adopting. She said, we're going to have a baby this year. So I feel like I believe it's energy. I believe it's God. I believe it's you put out things out in the universe, and it's going to come back to you. And that's honestly helped me realize that all the doubts and the fears and anxieties and the lack of feeling worthy, like if I just keep pressing forward and just realize that nobody, like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or any of these people aren't any better than me. The difference between them and me is that they just take action and they just make it happen. So honestly, that's something that I try to approach. Like despite feeling fear and anxiety and doubts, like I don't care. I'm just going to keep going because I don't have any other option, like we talked about earlier.
Dude, I love that, man.
Yeah.
Well, Devin, thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, that was
Where
awesome.
can our listeners connect with you?
So yeah, just check me out on Instagram at Devin.Hager 7. So yep.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, sounds good.